Hey guys, it's me, the Bombay Chef Varun Inamdar, and welcome to Rajshri Food. Well, today's recipe is straight from undocumented history. This is a baklava. A classic baklava can be made in several ways. I'm of course making a very simpler way so that you can all have fun at home eating and making a baklava. I'm going to divide this recipe into three components. The first one is making the attar or the sugar syrup. The second one is making the hashwe or the filling. And the third one is actually shaping it. And finally, of course, baking it and presenting it. For the attar, the first ingredient that's important is lemon. Of course, it's going to have a base of water and sugar. There's rose syrup and orange blossom. Let's begin with making the attar first. A pan on high flame, water, of course, as the base, granulated sugar for sweetness, and we allow this to boil for a minute before adding the flavorings. It's been a minute on medium to high flame. Well, this is the time when the sugar will begin to melt and you'll understand if the sugar has any impurities. Well, in case you find any impurities, just add in like a tablespoon of milk to clear the syrup, which is again very important. But this, in a lot of ways, is a very clear syrup. Let's add in some flavorings, beginning with rosewater, and along with this, orange blossom water. Well, orange blossom water as an ingredient has a lot of signature in that part of the world. When I say that part of the world, in today's times, I mean the whole Arabic nation, Middle East and the Gulf. It's very, very easily available as an ingredient. In case you cannot lay your hands on that, add in like a wedge or like rind of orange, sweet, bitter, and that should be perfect. Let's allow this to boil for a minute. And while that's happening, I'm also going to squeeze in half a lime. Well, lemon juice in this case has three things. Let me first finish this carefully, because you do not want surprises in your mouth with any of these seeds coming in. Let's stir this well and allow this to boil for 3 minutes exactly. Well, coming back to lemon juice. Lemon juice in a lot of ways clears the syrup. It gives it that shine. It also helps in recrystallizing of the sugar. It rather controls the sugar from recrystallizing, which is again very important. And also, last but not the least, adds it that tinge of sourness or acidity, which is very important in a recipe which is so sugar rich. It just kind of creates that balance of mouthfeel and taste. It's been 3 minutes and the syrup has been bubbling on medium-high flame. If you see, once this syrup kind of becomes of one thread consistency, which is exactly how it's seen here, a bubble, and then it kind of drops like a thread and holds shape and structure, this syrup is done and ready. With this, off goes the flame, and this now needs to rest and come down to room temperature. So let's keep this aside and move to the next step, which is the hashwe. Now, hashwe is making the filling. The fillings could be made with almond, it could be made with pistachios, it could be made with walnuts, cashews, a mix of nuts. Just go all out and get experimental with nuts. Try to choose nuts which have a little bit of stability. Do not use hazelnuts or macadamia, because of course it's also going to be a cost implication on the recipe, but also you need to kind of take care of the rancidity of the nuts, which could be a challenge. Walnuts in this case are safer. Now, traditionally, this filling is called a hashwe. Now, I'm not making a hashwe because remember what I said? I'm making the baklava my style completely. Traditionally, a hashwe could have caster sugar. It could have a little more of orange blossom, some more of rose syrup, some more of essences. It could have cinnamon powder. It could have clove powder in case of a few countries. But I am using just a nut powder, in this case, walnuts. The next ingredient here is traditionally a phyllo pastry or a phyllo pastry as they use. But again, I am not using a phyllo pastry because I want all of you to easily make this in your home kitchens. So I am using samosa patti. Well, in case you want to make the patti at home, you have an extensive recipe by me in the description box. So do not forget to click on that in case you want to make it at home. Now, these are of course store-bought because that makes my baklava making experience quicker. It's important if you're buying these store-bought, they are available in frozen forms. So you keep these at room temperature, ensure they are thawed well. It could take an hour, it could take 45 minutes, depending on the variety or depending on the quality that you choose. I'm layering all of these here and I'm making these into cylindrical rolls. Again, making your baklava experience fun. The next ingredient in this case is melted butter. You can choose to use salted butter or unsalted butter. Well, internationally, they also use vegetarian ghee or vegetarian butter, which is nothing but the same. Just spread this evenly like so. Ensure that the sheets are well moistened with the fat in this case. Once buttering of the sheets literally is done, let's move on to adding in walnuts. Now you need to be very careful at this stage because you do not want to mess around the entire work table. These are crushed walnuts which are untoasted. In case you're using any other nuts, they would also be untoasted. Once you add in this generous sprinkling, you take one end of the sheet and begin to roll like so. Well, if you remember, right towards the beginning of the video, I spoke about undocumented history of baklava. Well, some say that this is straight from the Ottoman Empire, Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, and some say it's by the Assyrians of the 8th century. Some also say that a sultan made this for his army, for his standing army, on the 15th of every month. Well, undocumented history, yet so much documentation, but the sword of uncertainty literally looming on top of the head of a baklava. But whatever said and done, it's possibly one of the most fantastic desserts, which is layered, which is sweet, which is flaky. What else do you want in a dessert? Well, this is also one of those desserts that can be eaten straight out of the oven. It can be eaten warm, it can be eaten cold, it can also be eaten reheated or rewarmed. What a dessert. The rolls are now getting ready. Let's similarly start making some more or rolling some more. Well, traditionally, of course, if you make this recipe, it's going to be very time consuming and it's also going to be borderline costlier for you. But this one is a very effective recipe because you can control it in terms of cost, in terms of quality. And also, if you think about it, it's not very easily available across many stores. You need to either hop into a high-end pastry shop when you travel internationally or spot this at the airports. Make it at your own home and have fun. With this, our rolled baklava is done and ready. Now this ideally comes under the category of artisanal products. What do you mean by artisanal? It's possibly one of the most overtly used words in the culinary world. Artisanal is anything that is handmade and is not machine made, and that's why there's that little bit that's here and there, but that's absolutely fine, and that's actually the beauty of something like a rolled baklava. The next step is baking this, but before baking, it's important to place this in a tray. I'm using, of course, a bake dish, which is of glass. You can use it of ceramic, you can use it of any material, and it's absolutely fine. The baking time would differ here and there, but if you think about it, what are we baking here? The nuts would of course get toasted in the matter of 30 to 40 minutes. That is the baking time of a baklava. It's important to get the phyllo pastry, or in this case the samosa patti, nice and crisp. Remember, crisp layers, 20 layers at the bottom, 20 layers at the top, and the center, which is the nut or the hashwe mixture. In this case, of course, hashwe has also been made in a very nice, simple way. Like I'm saying again, so that you all can experience the magic of baklava in your home kitchens. Let's place this very carefully, like so, without of course opening the rolls. In case you see or you feel some are opening, just tighten them and place them. The open side of the patti needs to be placed at the bottom, like so that it holds shape and does not open up while of course getting baked. You do not want a flower and a surprise by the end of the baking time. The baklava rolls are well set. Now one optional step here is to run a knife through and through the baklava and cut this into two. So eventually when they get baked, the two things that will happen. One, they will get baked nicely. Eventually when they get baked, you will actually be able to cut it or portion it with ease. And also when you add in the syrup which we just made, the Atta, it'll seep in beautifully well. So I'm going with it. You can take a call. Once this is cut and done, this is yet another important step, and that is pouring melted butter. One quick stir, because there would be some milk or milk solid settled at the bottom. Let's pour this evenly on top of all the cylinders or all the rolls. Well, in case if you have some pockets which are not buttered well, with the help of a brush, just even it out. The next step is to bake this 200 degrees Celsius for 30 to 35 minutes till it's nice and brown on the top. Well, of course, the bottom will get caramelized because of the butter and things like that, but the top is also equally important. You may want to keep turning it while it's baking, but that depends on oven to oven. Let's bake this, but before this gets baked, let me quickly share an anecdote with you. I had an Italian boss was of the opinion that phyllo pastry or phyllo pastry should be so thin that you should literally be able to read a newspaper through it. Time to bake now. Our baklava is baked and ready. It's nice and crisp on the outside and the walnuts are also beautifully toasted. The next step is to sweeten this with the attar or the sugar syrup that we made earlier. Let's carefully pour the attar or the syrup. The syrup is poured and done. What I'm doing here is tilting this entire pan slightly so that the syrup moves all through, not just the bottom, but also through the cylinders, and that kind of brings in the layer of sweetness and stickiness in the baklava. Well, I'm used to doing this for several years. You could obviously use a mitten while doing this because it's extremely hot. It's directly out of the oven. Finally, last but not the least, some pistachios. With this, your baklava is done and ready, and trust me, it would take not more than an hour, hour and a half to make something like this. Well, otherwise traditional baklava would easily take more than 3.5 hours. Well, make this for family, make this for friends, and have fun. Bye for now.